The most important tag word that attracted me was happiest country in the world. I have to see this for myself in person. How is this possible for any country to be so happy?
I feel like the coolest thing, literally, is the multicultural environment here because people come from all over the world.
Study system in Finnish universities is very, very different. It emphasizes flexibility and creativity and independence.
I want to say there's a low hierarchy, but the best way to put it is there's no hierarchy at all.
These experiences are what you're gonna take with you for the rest of your life and you're never gonna forget.
Welcome to Study in Finland webinar. I'm Hanna Isoranta from the Study in Finland team, and I'm your host today. This webinar is for those who are interested in applying to higher education degree studies in Finland. In this webinar, you will get practical advice on how to apply. Also, you will hear an inspiring student testimonial focusing on what it's like to study in Finland. During the webinar, you can chat with my colleagues, but remember to pay attention to our excellent speakers. So, our first speaker is Melissa Lopez Avellan. She is an international master student at the University of Helsinki. Melissa is studying educational sciences. Currently, Melissa works as an intern in the Study in Finland team. The floor is yours, Melissa.
So, thank you, Hannah, for this introduction. My name is Melissa, and as Hannah mentioned, I am both an intern with the Study in Finland team, and I'm also a master's student at the University of Helsinki. So this presentation today is all about my personal student experience here in Finland. So about this brief presentation, I will first start by introducing myself and a little bit about me and my educational background. And then the second part would be about my studies in Finland. And I will introduce my program and talk mostly about the learning environment and the learning style. And finally, we will end the presentation with work and career development. And I will talk about my internship that I'm currently doing and also a research project related to my thesis that I'm currently undergoing. So about me. So again, hi, my name is Melissa, and I'm originally from a tropical country in the Philippines. So shout out to all the participants from there as well. I grew up in Manila, a very big city, and I have a bachelor's in psychology, first with the Filipino education system, and then I transferred to a university abroad with the American higher education system. And now I am a master's student in educational sciences here in Finland. So let's dive deep into that. So my master's program is called the Changing Education Program. It's part of the Faculty of Educational Sciences at the University of Helsinki. And it is a 2 years master's degree taught in English, and if you're interested in exploring more, they offer 36 different international higher education programs, and the application period is starting soon, and more about that later on in this webinar, so stay tuned for that. So why did I choose Finland? First of all, I am a very passionate heavy metal listener, and I really loved Finnish heavy metal. And for those who know, they know. And I really was inspired by the Finnish nature, the language, and the culture. So I've always wanted to come and live in Finland. And I found the Changing Education program by just simply researching online. And what drew me to this program was the fact that it was interdisciplinary. I have a background in psychology, but I wasn't really sure about what I'd like to specialize in. So this program is really great for that. And also it looks at education in different scales. So we have the the individual scale. We have neuroscience, and we look at the human brain. And of course, we learn about the world-renowned Finnish education system. At the societal level, we look at social justice and diversity challenges, which are very important right now. And at the wider scale, we look at global policy and education. So what ties all of these different components together? Well, they are all part of like this research-based idea. And these types of research-based degrees offer courses in research methods like quantitative, qualitative methods, and programming, and of course, academic writing courses to fully equip you in writing a successful master's thesis. So don't you worry, they got you covered, and you have the option of even taking courses from different degree programs as optional courses. So that's great. So about the learning environment. Well, first off, I would like to give a shout out to the Study in Finland team because I was very inspired by their brand and their key messages. So one of their key messages is the idea of the learning environment being informal. And so what do we mean by that? Firstly, I'd like to talk about the group of people that I was in my cohort. So my classmates were a diverse group of individuals coming from different cultures and different countries. We had students from Japan to Ghana, Philippines, and even a few classmates coming from Finland. So it was a very interesting group. We also had different backgrounds. So each student came from different disciplines. We had people who were fresh out of their bachelor's, and we had people who have been working for a long time and have decided to take up studying again. And I would like to mention the importance of lifelong learning here in Finland. It's highly valued, and lifelong learning is the idea that learning and education should be accessible to everyone and to anyone at different life stages. And I think that's so beautiful. And of course, we had like a mixed age range. I think the youngest was about 23 and oldest maybe 45. So learning never stops. And I'd also like to mention the idea of low hierarchy in Finland, as you've seen in the previous video. So the informal learning environment allows students to voice out their experiences and their learning trajectories, and this sort of creates this really wonderful environment that is very meaningful and provides a safe space for students to really be themselves. And I think the beauty of learning truly takes place then. The next key message is independence, and specifically the independent learning style here in Finland. So students have a lot of autonomy, and the learning can be quite individualized, meaning that if you're more of a visual learner or a more audio type of learner, or you just simply like writing traditional texts, they got you covered. The learning style is very much tailored to individual needs. So you have the option of choosing which topics you'd like to work on, or in which ways you would like to deliver your assignments. There's also this idea of flexibility in your studies, especially after the COVID pandemic. You have the option of having these hybrid lectures where it's online or in person. And this is great, especially for those who would like to do some part-time work at the same time studies. So for me, for example, I worked as a substitute teacher at international schools, and that was a very valuable experience for me because I got to experience work life, but also earn a bit of income while studying. So you have that option. In Finland, study life balance is really important. So ensuring that you are taking care of yourself and your well-being. And I think although the attendance is not particularly mandatory, at least in my degree. What's mandatory is that you take a break during the weekends and during the holidays, which I think is incredibly conducive to productivity and motivation in your studies. So take that nature break. But I do have to let you know that Finland is a very high trusting society, and this trust means that they trust you or trust students to be responsible for your education and for keeping track of your learning. So definitely ensure that you hand in deadlines on time and finish the courses in due time. So the last key message I'd like to mention is that I've been very inspired throughout my journey as a student in Finland. There have been a lot of inspiring learning opportunities, and I'd like to mention this idea of project-based learning, because most of us coming from different academic backgrounds or education systems, we're so used to this traditional method of lecture-based learning, where we have a lecturer that gives us a lecture and we take down notes. But what I found interesting, at least in my degree, is this project-based learning. And so the assignment is that they give us a real-life problem, and we get into groups and provide practical and creative cutting-edge solutions to today's challenges. So I thought that was really cool, and I will provide some examples for you in the next slide. The next value that I really like is this student empowerment. I feel like in Finland, students are valued, and this really is something very special, because students are looked at as the young minds that can influence the future, and research is very transparent in this society and can lead to positive change. So that's really cool. And the last part is career development. So as I mentioned, low hierarchy in the learning environment, it also goes to the work life. So as a student in an internship, you have the opportunity to sort of be influential in your own way. So that's really nice. So as promised, here are some examples of my project-based works, and I was teamed up with a UX designer and a former dance teacher. So we developed this app for intergenerational learning between young children and their grandparents. So these included fun dance activities that they could do together to promote their well-being. And of course, we had a report that was research-based. Another example in my neuroscience class is I was teamed up with early childhood educators, and we identified that sleep or nap time during the daycare is something that's very talked about, and it is an issue. So we developed an information package for parents and educators that highlights the importance of sleep in the developing brain. So these are two examples of project-based learning. So moving on to the last section of this presentation, work and career development. I'm currently doing an internship with the Finnish National Agency for Education. I work closely with this wonderful Study in Finland team, but I also work with different teams in internationalization services. So things from marketing to video production and attending events. So these skills are really wonderful to add to your experience and your CV. But I think the two key takeaways from this internship is networking. And networking is really crucial in career development, especially in Finland. We have a small network and community, which is great because everyone knows each other and you don't know which opportunities might arise when you go to these events. And that's really awesome. You also have different networking communities in different parts of Finland. So like Turku, for example, has a very active networking community. So everything is connected. The second key takeaway is exposure. So working in a Finnish government agency allowed me to really learn about the Finnish workplace and the Finnish language and So, everyone was really accommodating, and it is definitely a low hierarchical society, and I felt really valued, and I've learned so much. So I'm very grateful to that. And lastly, I'm part of this research project, which is coincidentally funded by the agency, and it's all about collaboration between Finnish and Southeast Asian teacher education students. And so they will come together in a practicum in Malaysia at a school which has implemented the Finnish core curriculum. And this would be really interesting to know whether or not this sort of promotes more inclusive practices in education, and whether or not international mobility in teacher education is valuable. And I would like to, in the near future, disseminate the results of this research, perhaps to the government or to the society. So I'm very excited for that. And last shout out to the Study in Finland team. They have an awesome rebrand, and so you could go check out their socials or their Study in Finland website. And thank you so much for listening, and sorry about the technical issues earlier, but I wish you the best of luck in your journey, and stay tuned for learning all about the application process. Bye.
Thank you, Melissa, for your engaging presentation and sharing your experiences, and also a bit promoting Finland as a study destination. If you have questions for Melissa, feel free to add those to the chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Our next speaker is Janni Jokela. She is working as a senior advisor in the services for student admissions at EduFi, Finnish National Agency for Education. Janni will tell you how to find English taught programs and how to submit your application. Janni, feel free to start.
Thank you, Hanna, and thank you, Melissa. As Hanna said, my name is Janni Jokela, and I am very pleased to see so many of you here who are interested in coming and studying in Finland. It's currently snowing here. It looks like a winter wonderland, and it's so beautiful. So today I'm gonna tell you about Studyinfo, which is a study program and application portal. And after my presentation, I will go to Studyinfo and show you how you can fill your application and search for study programs. And feel free to ask questions. You can write them to the chat. So, what is Studyinfo? Studyinfo is a national study program and application portal. As you can see here in the right, there is a picture of Studyinfo's front side. Studyinfo is the main route for applying to higher education in Finland. The whole process of applying and admissions is available through this one website, so everything goes through Studyinfo. All information here is available in English. There is no registration needed, and applying is free. So from Studyinfo, you can find information about Finnish education system, all the available study programs, and information on the said programs, such as contents, language and form of teaching, how to apply, study fees, everything. Also, these application forms are available in Studyinfo. So, how to apply to higher education in Finland? There are two ways: joint application and separate application. In this joint application, you can apply to up to 6 programs at once. They can be from any higher education institute that is part of the joint application. The main application periods are in January and in September. Then we have these separate applications, That means a direct application to certain programs, or institutions. And these separate applications can be organized any time of the year, but joint applications into English-speaking programs are twice a year. So the next round, next joint application to higher education is closing by. The application period begins on the 3rd of January, so in a month, and this application period ends on the 17th January, so there is like this 2 weeks application period. There will be programs available in 33 higher education institutions. There will be bachelor's degree programs taught in English and master's degree programs taught in English. So, as I said before, there are 2 ways to apply to higher education degree programs in Finland: joint application and separate application. It's very important to make sure to check how and when you need to apply to your chosen study programs. But there is no application fee. Applying is always free, so you don't need to worry about this at that point. So in joint application, you can apply up to 6 programs in up to 6 different universities with one form. You can submit only one application in joint application, and if you are trying to submit more applications, the latest submitted application will be considered and others will be cancelled. Usually in separate direct or applications via rolling admissions, there are separate rules and procedures, so please check them from the admission criteria section of the study program page. Here at the right, you can see how it looks in Studyinfo. Here is joint application and then separate application. So about the documents. Most usual documents required are official documents which are verifying your educational background, such as copies of degree certificates, transcript of records, official translations of these, and so on. Then there might be preliminary assignments. These are common in the field of arts and design. Then there might be essays, motivation, and recommendation letters. These are very common, especially in the master's programs. But please check document requirements from admission criteria on study program pages, as they vary a lot. The deadlines for document submissions may also vary, and there are also some country-specific requirements which can also vary. So, how do I find out whether I have to take an entrance exam or not? So universities of applied sciences have unified entrance exam for bachelor's degree programs. It's called International US Exam. And they have created a website. You can see the link over here where you can find a lot of information about this US international exam process and what it includes and so on. Universities mostly don't have entrance exams, but they rather select students via SAT scores for bachelor's, and then they have this document-based admissions usually for masters. However, exemptions are a rule of thumb here. So, as again I say, please check the exact admission criteria from the study program pages under admission criteria. I will show you later where and how to find it. So, most application periods for bachelor's and master's programs are open in December to January. So there is this joint application, and then there will be also more applications. Higher education institutions check applications in January to May. There is no unified schedule for result publication. So results are published between February and May, but in joint application, results are published latest May the 31st at latest. So if you have been offered admission, you will receive an email where you are asked to accept the offer of admission. Please note that you can only accept one offer of admission in study programs leading to a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree in the same academic term. This is called one study place per term provision. So there might be a situation that you will receive many offers, but you can only accept one. After this, you can apply for a residential permit as soon as you are offered admissions. Then you need to pay the tuition fees as instructed by the higher education institution. Then you will be directed to register as attending at your higher education institution. And here is a screenshot about this letter of admission here. And as you can see, here is admission offered, and then you can choose if you will accept this offer of admission, or you can also choose that I do not accept this offer of admission. Your 5 steps to Finland. First, go and search study programs at studyinfo.fi. Then check admission requirements and criteria. Then apply to programs and scholarships. Then wait for the acceptance letter, and then prepare for arrival. So common questions about applying to universities and universities of applied sciences in Finland is that it is preferred to have the applicants themselves to fill in and supply the required documents. So you can do it by yourself. It is very, very easy to do in Studyinfo. There is no centralized customer service for applicants in Finland. So if you have something you want to ask, please contact the educational institution directly. If you find an interesting program and have further questions about its context or how to apply or how to get admitted, we have a list of Finnish higher education institutions admission services in Studyinfo. So you will find all contact information from Studyinfo. And if you would like to get to know the educational institutions, you can do it in Studyinfo also. There is a list of educational institutions, and they also provide applicant events. So go and check them out. So this was my presentation, and now I will go to Studyinfo and show you how you can search study programs and how you can fill your application. So just a moment, I will do my magic. this is the Studyinfo website, but please note that I'm currently in our test site, so this is not the original Studyinfo website, because I want to show you how you can apply, and it's not possible in the real site, so I have created an application period here. As you can see, here is this test site. So when you come to Studyinfo, as you can see here, first you can search for study programs, courses, or educational institutions. Here you can filter your searches. Here you can filter education type. You can choose application period. You can choose if application is ongoing or will start within a month. Then time period, when the study program starts. Teaching time, location, if you have a city in mind where you would like to study in Finland. Duration of education, field of study. Here, if you, for example, want to know what is possible to study in the education field, you can take this one. Then there you can filter the fees, language of instruction, English, form of instruction, prior education, application procedures, and so on. But here are some useful links for you guys. Here is a link to Study in Finland website, link to This is Finland website, and here you can go straight to study programs taught in English. If you want to know about scholarships and tuition fees, you can click here, and then there are instructions for admitted students. And here are also some interesting study opportunities. And please note that it's possible to apply into upper secondary education also in Studyinfo. So this why please remember to filter that you only want to apply to higher education if that's the case. But yes, here from the left, you can also find information about higher education in Finland. Application to higher education. As you can see, here is also information about joint application to upper secondary education. So please note to filter this one. And then we have more links here and also news. And then here you can also find contents and frequently asked questions. This one is only in Finnish right now because we are at the test site. But yes, let's go here. So here are all the study programs right now. As you can see, 5,855 study programs in 640 educational institutions. So let's first filter it so that we are gonna take joint application to higher education spring 2024. And then also let's switch language to English. So still 265 study programs available in English in the joint application to higher education spring 2024 in 33 educational institutions. If you have something in mind what you would like to study, you can write here. Let's take, for example, Bachelor of Business, Bachelor of Business Administration here. And then you will find some basic information about Bachelor of Business Administration. And then if you scroll down, you can find more instructions, description about this. What competence does the graduate have? What kind of learning methods are used? What kind of career opportunities? And then when you scroll more down, you will find all the available study programs. These are in alphabetical order. So the C, Centria, University of Applied Sciences will come first. And because we are at the test side, you can see this application ongoing, even though it in real life starts on the January the 3rd. So, and then you can scroll down, you can see here that this one is daytime teaching, irrespective of time. You can see tuition fees for non-EU citizens. You can see where this education is. This is in Kokkola City. And if you want, you can filter here. But let's take, for example, this one, Haaga-Helia. I clicked it, and then you will find more information. Here you can find information about scholarships. And here is this admission criteria. I will click it. And here comes the eligibility criteria. So here is taught that eligible applicants for degree studies in University of Applied Sciences have completed, and then a list of everything. Then there is information for refugees and asylum seekers, requirements on health and functional capacity, and then about description of admission criteria. So here is International University of Applied Sciences exam, this US exam, SAT test, certificate-based selection, and then more information about this admissions procedure and about International US exam, SAT test, certificate-based student selection. So you will find a lot of information here, including what attachments are needed and the dates. But let's think that, yes, now you have read all the admission criteria and are wanting to apply to this one. Let's go back. And let's go and fill the application form. So you can find this application form here, but when this application period is ongoing, it will be also at the front page of in Studyinfo. So you will find this application form in Studyinfo also at the front page. But yes, and this application form open. So here is also a lot of information about how to fill the application form, and then how to choose the study programs. And here is this, as we came to this form from this Bachelor of Business Administration. It's here, but you can add more study programs. As I said before, you can choose 6. So here at study program search, let's see, maybe I would like to study maybe also BBA, but in a different University of Applied Sciences. So I will write down Bachelor of Business administration. And this form will ask, would I like to add this? This one is already chosen. And then I can scroll down and I can take, for example, this one. Yes, add it. And then I will close this one and continue filling the application. The next section is personal information. So here you can fill all your information, and please note that this nationality is in Finland here. So let's pretend I'm from India. And then this application will ask if I have a Finnish personal identity code. And as you can see, it's yes. So let's put it as a no. And then there will come more sections to fill your date of birth and gender and every information what we cannot get from, because all the details from Finnish applicants comes straight to the application, but obviously we don't. You guys need to fill these informations by yourselves. And then it's very important to check that you will write down your correct email address. That's why we are asking it twicely, because all the information will go to your email. So if your email address is spelled wrongly, then you will not get this information. Then some permissions. And here is where you need to fill in the education that you have completed or will complete during this admission process. So I assume that many of you have either upper secondary education completed outside Finland or bachelor's or master's or doctoral degree completed outside Finland. But let's click this one. And now this form will ask the year of your completion, the degree, educational institute, country of completion, and then you will write them here. Then it will ask if you have completed general upper secondary education or a vocational qualification. Let's say yes. And again, choose a country. By clicking, I will choose India again. Now, and then there is information for students under 18 years. And this is also very important to know that if you are under 18 years old when you start the studies in Finland, you are legally a minor and you can't, for example, make a rental agreement for accommodation, electricity, contact, or open a bank account by yourself. And therefore, life in Finland as a minor student without parents can be very, very challenging. So please note that. And then this form will ask about exemption from tuition fees, and that's why it asks if you have any documents that will make sure that you do or don't need to pay the tuition fees. Let's say I don't have any of these above. And then this form will ask you to put a copy of passport or identity card, and you can upload this attachment right here. And then there is some information about this US international exam. And then some language requirements, a lot of information here. And then you need to upload your passport again for this US international exam. Then, because there is a SAT test requirements, this application form will ask you to some information about your SAT test. And then there is a question about using an educational agency. So if you are applying with the help of an educational agency, then this application form asks you to let it know. So yes, I cannot submit my application right now as I have 26 unanswered questions. But when you're gonna send your application, please remember to click this button. And after you have sent your application, you will receive a confirmation of your submitted application to the email that you have given in this application. So make sure the email is correctly written. So yeah, this was my part. I hope you find it helpful. And if you have any questions, we will take them later. And please go to Studyinfo. There are a lot of very important informations that I don't have time to tell you right here, but go there. And I hope to see you in Finland. Thank you.
Thank you, Janni, for your very informative presentation. So as Janni mentioned, that if you have questions for Janni, feel free to add those questions to the chat, and we will have a soon Q&A session, and then we can discuss about those questions. But next, we will watch a student testimonial video about studying in Finland. After the video, we will have a Q&A session with the speakers. So stay tuned.
The most important tag word that attracted me was happiest country in the world. I have to see this for myself in person. How is this possible for any country to be so happy?
The best thing about Finnish education is that universities trying to kind of combine the theoretical approach and the practical approach. So you kind of have this balance of theory and also practice. We're going to have a certain amount of time when we're just going to be working mostly. Our teachers even tried to stimulate us to find a job even during our studies, and I feel like that this is great because in my home country, everyone is mostly focused on just theory, and people just end up graduating from the university without any practical knowledge, and it doesn't work in life like this.
So one of the main reasons why I chose to study in Finland was because of the affordability. I actually got 100% scholarship while coming to study here, and so that was one of the main attractions for me. I want to say there's a low hierarchy, but I think the best way to put it is there's no hierarchy at all, because it is so easy to walk up to your professor, have a chat with him, ask questions where you don't understand, and they are forever ready to help. Another reason I chose Finland was because of how big Finland is on equality, diversity, as well as sustainability. I think the country does a good job in empowering its women, as well as the men, obviously.
I feel like I have a lot of flexibility, and I have a feeling of my own identity, my own self, of what I'm building here as my own study profile. Then I feel like I will be more ready for the society out there, because nobody here is just out for degrees. We're out there for finding our place in the world where we can do a job, where we find people interested in our skill set. So if that skill set is the same basic rigid program that every other person who's doing the degree has, then I don't feel like I have a role here. I feel like I am playing a role here. So that's what attracted me to Finland, because I felt like I could make myself, like build a person.
The quality of education in Finland is really good. You get to practice what you've learned theoretically. You get to practice it as exactly as it is, with the most recent technologies as you will find outside. And then you have lots of assignments. I mean, it's really good when we have assignments. It might be tiring, but then you get to learn more when you discover some things yourself.
There's not really that pressure of like grades, so you can focus more on where things are going right, where they are going wrong, on your process of learning, exactly, not just in the end of what you got. So you're not really memorizing stuff to do it in an exam and forget about it later. You're in a process that you're gonna remember. We also get to do a lot of collaborative work. I feel like there's kind of a paradox, because when you get to working life, people want you to know how to collaborate. But a lot of places where you study at don't actually encourage you to do that. You take your own exams, you do your own papers, your own essays, and here like you get to do a project for a semester or for half of a semester with different people. So you actually train that and develop that skill before you get to a working place. Don't be afraid of experiencing new things. I know a lot of people say that like, oh, Finland is too cold, Finland is too dark, it's too different, it's too far away in some cases, but it's a really, really unique experience that you probably wouldn't get anywhere else. And these experiences are like what you're gonna take with you for the rest of your life, and you're never gonna forget.
Okay, hopefully you got inspired by our students and you are even more eager to apply to studies in Finland. But let's have a Q&A session now. And we also invite Topias from the Studyinfo team to this part of the webinar. And then there will be, of course, Janni and Melissa with us. But I think we could start with Melissa, because Melissa was the first speaker. So, Melissa, can you tell me or the audience, what was the biggest surprise for you when you started your studies in Finland?
Thanks, Hannah, for the question. That's really a great question. I need to think for one moment. But what really surprised me about my studies in Finland was that I felt very safe in the learning environment, as I've mentioned before, like because it's so approachable and informal. I felt that I'm a quite shy person, and it gave me confidence to speak up because it felt really accessible and approachable. So that's what really surprised me about studying in Finland. My first impression, I guess.
Okay, good to hear. Can you tell a bit about the facilities or student services in the campus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so starting with the facilities, I think that each university has an amazing like campus environment. It's very modern and it's very study friendly. So you would have reading corners, lots of reading material and books available to you. And you also have laptops which you could easily access and use for assignments or computers. So that's really great. In Finland, we also have public libraries that everyone can use and access, and you can even borrow some equipment, whether it is to produce a video for your assignments, or they even have sewing machines, at least the public library in Helsinki, and even instruments, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So yes, they have amazing facilities for students, both within the university and also in the public libraries. And about the student services, I personally haven't experienced as much as my fellow peers, but I could say that there's a lot of student support available for you if you need to reach out, whether it is some personal issues that you'd like to have help with, guidance counseling, and also health benefits are really great here in Finland for students. And also you are able to access the career services. So if you're wondering about what to do, even during your studies and after your studies, they are available to listen to you. So overall, I think student services and facilities are thumbs up.
Good, thank you. And I guess you still have time to make use of those services.
Yes, exactly.
Some studies still left. Yes. Okay. Quite many of you have asked about the scholarships, in the chat, and we do offer scholarship for talented international students. So all our universities and universities of applied sciences have scholarships programs, and you can get more information on those. For instance, visiting Studyinfo website that Janni showed us, and where you can find there, those programs you are interested in. So in that program information, you also can find information about the scholarships. That was briefly, and of course there is a general information about scholarships at studyinfo.fi and also at the Study in Finland website. But then there was very practical questions. For instance, when do application periods begin? Can you, Topias, a little bit still highlight these timetables?
Yes, of course. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Topias Kehara. I'm special advisor here at the National Agency for Education here in Finland. And thank you, Hanna, Janni, and Melissa for your inspiring presentations. And so, yeah, there were some questions about the practicalities about applying in the chat. Thank you for all your good questions. The first of them, as Hanna mentioned, when do application periods begin? The joint application begins on the 3rd of January and ends on the 17th of the same month, 17th of January at 3 p.m. at Eastern European time, so UTC +2. And as Janni mentioned in her presentation, please press the send application button in time, as we cannot accept any late applications.
Yes, thank you. It was important to highlight that matter as well. And also, of course, prospective students are very interested in eligibility and entry requirements matters. And of course, those always a little bit depending on the program and the higher education institutions. But can you maybe, Topias, still tell where they can find more information about these issues?
Yes, of course. So if when you're going to studyinfo.fi, where you can also apply to these degree programs, when you go to each and every study program page, you can find more information about the study program, and on the same web page, there's also a link to the admission criteria for each application. So you can find all the necessary information either on Studyinfo or on usually on the websites of the universities or Universities of Applied Sciences pages itself.
Good, thank you. Let me see, was there still some important questions to ask? Okay, maybe this one is also important, that whom should I contact if I want to ask about my application? So this is then when you have already submitted your application, so who to contact after that if you have something to ask?
Yes, if you have already sent your application, or if you're thinking about sending the application as well and face some issues or have something on your mind, you can always contact the admission services at the universities or the University of Applied Sciences. I will soon write the link to the page on studyinfo.fi where you can find the list of contact information for each admissions team. So always try to be in contact with the admissions team of the university itself, because they can help you the fastest.
Yeah. Well, I would a bit continue from this. So if you have applied to many different higher education institutions and you have quite general questions regarding application process, so how do you know which of those institutions to contact? Or can you just pick one?
Oh yes, that is a good one. And usually we encourage you to contact if it's a general question regarding applying. You should always contact the first one on your list. So of course, in the joint application, you don't have a order of priority, but just the first one on your list is usually the best way to go about it. And of course, if you have a question about a specific set of admission criteria, or you have questions about the entrance exam and so forth, then always contact the higher education institution in question.
Yeah, good. Okay, I also now learned something new during this webinar. And there has also been questions about working during your studies. And yes, it's allowed to work during your studies if you have a student residence permit, and the maximum hours per week is 30 hours per week at the moment. Okay, let's see, should we still ask something important? I'm now checking the questions here. Yeah, there was one question, also one more question from Melissa. Can you still a bit tell about daily life in Finland and how well you manage in English in your daily life?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I think that's also one of the things that I was really surprised about, is that Finns are quite fluent in English, especially in the capital region, I guess, or the younger generations. But English is taught in Finnish schools at a very early age. So I was really amazed at how fluent Finns are in speaking English. And they're basically bilingual, I would say, learning at such a young age. And my daily life is pretty calm, I would say. I enjoy spending times outdoors, enjoying the nature. I love to sauna. Really happy about that. Something very Finnish. I love spending time in the forest, picking mushrooms during the season, the fall season. So very nice nature-related activities. And I'd say overall, my daily life here is very calm and happy. So yeah, I'm very grateful to have such a wonderful time here. And also I was thinking, something that surprised me about Finns is that they really love karaoke. That's one thing that we have in common in the Philippines. We love karaoke, and Finns also really love karaoke. So it's also a great time.
Well, it sounds like that you have settled well in this quirky northern country, and you are doing all very traditional Finnish activities in your everyday life. And it's interesting, this karaoke thing, and also you mentioned in your presentation that you like heavy metal music, and so that's something very Finnish as well. Okay, then I think we have, let's see, I'm still checking if there is something. Yeah, there's one more question for Melissa. Is it hard to get part-time job in Finland? What do you think about from your own experience?
That's a really good question. And I would like to mention that, my example, I worked as a substitute teacher in international schools. I sent my CV. And also you can keep an eye out on opportunities within your university. So you could have like a paid opportunity to work as a student representative or work in administrations in the library. There are also internships available, English-speaking internships available during your studies. And what else? You could also become a student ambassador with Study in Finland in the future. So yeah, there are opportunities out there, and you just have to look out for them online.
Yeah. And I also need to remind that even if Melissa told that it's quite easy to come along in English in everyday life. So I would like to highlight that if you are willing to stay in Finland after studies and build your life and career in Finland, it's also important to start learning Finnish or Swedish, and then it's much easier to find a good job after studies. And I know also that Melissa is studying these languages, and I think the other language is going very well already.
Yes, I think the workplace is a perfect opportunity to really learn the language and the culture.
Yeah. Yes, and you can also, as mentioned, study languages by working or during your working. Okay, I think that's more or less everything. And now I would once more thank our speakers, Melissa, Janni, and Topias. And I also want to thank our audience for joining us today. And once more, I want to remind that you will find more information on studying in Finland at the Study in Finland website, or more practical information on English taught programs and applying is available at studyinfo.fi. And we have recorded this webinar, and the recording will be available in the near future on Study in Finland's YouTube channel. My colleagues will share a link to the channel on the chat, and you can also find the link at studyinfinland.fi. So I wish you best luck with the admissions, and I hope to see you soon in Finland. And you are very welcome.